The biological reality of desire. The idea that women prioritize sexual compatibility isn't just a social trend, it is a hardwired biological reality. Recent data reveals that a staggering 97% of women consider how a man performs in bed as a non negotiable factor when choosing a long term partner. This isn't about being shallow or picky. From an evolutionary standpoint, physical chemistry acts as a powerful indicator of genetic health and emotional connection. When that spark is missing, the relationship often struggles to survive because the biological foundation simply isn't there. For most women, great intimacy isn't just a bonus, it is the glue that holds the entire partnership together. To understand why this is so critical, you have to look at what actually happens to a woman's body during moments of intense desire. It is a total systemic takeover. The moment a woman becomes genuinely aroused, her body exits its resting state and enters a high performance mode. Her internal core temperature to climb, radiating heat as her metabolism shifts gears. This isn't just a metaphorical warmth. It is a literal, measurable spike in body heat caused by increased blood flow and energy expenditure. Her body is physically preparing itself for an intense physical encounter, moving away from calm and toward a state of peak readiness. The most dramatic change, however, occurs within the cardiovascular system. During the height of arousal and intercourse, a woman's heart rate doesn't just tick up, it surges by an average of 60%. This is the physiological equivalent of a light jog or a high-intensity workout. Her heart is pumping oxygenated blood to her extremities and pelvic region at an accelerated pace, fueling her sensory receptors and heightening every touch. This massive spike in heart rate proves that intimacy is a high-intensity physiological event, not just a mental state. It is a demanding, full-body experience that requires stamina and synchronization from a partner. When you realize that her body is undergoing these massive shifts, the rising heat, the pounding heart, the flooded senses, you understand why keeping up is so important. A woman's body is performing at its limit during these moments, and she needs a partner who recognizes the intensity of that shift. If a man cannot match that energy or understand the biological cues her body is sending, the disconnect becomes more than just a bad night. It becomes a sign of incompatibility. Understanding these biological markers is the first step toward moving past the mood and tapping into the raw physical reality of female desire, heightening the experience. When it comes to physical intimacy, the smallest adjustments often yield the most explosive results. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to understand the subtle triggers that flip a switch in the female nervous system. Take something as simple as dietary chemistry. Eating dark chocolate before a sexual encounter isn't just a romantic cliche, it's a biological hack. Chocolate contains compounds like phenylethylamine and tryptophan, which trigger the release of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. These are the feel-good chemicals that lower inhibitions, boost the mood, and significantly heighten physical sensitivity. By introducing these simple chemical triggers into the mix, you are essentially preloading the body for pleasure, making every touch feel more intense and every sensation more profound before things even get started. Once you move past the mental prep, the focus shifts to physical technique, where many men make the mistake of relying on outdated ideas. The reality is that traditional methods, specifically standard penetration, are often the least efficient way to bring a woman to her peak. Most women require focused external stimulation to reach a climax, and the secret lies in the anatomy of the labia and the clitoral network. Stimulating the labia directly through consistent rhythmic friction is often the most direct and effective path to a woman's release. This is because the nerve endings in this area are much more concentrated and accessible than those deeper inside. When you prioritize this kind of direct external friction, you aren't just trying to get her there. You are following a biological map that leads straight to a high-intensity finish. Understanding these specific nuances is exactly what separates an average forgettable partner from one who is truly unforgettable. It's about moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach and paying attention to how the female body actually responds to different stimuli. It involves a shift in mindset, seeing intimacy as a combination of chemical triggers, like the chocolate, and precision mechanics, like labial friction. When you master these small but powerful details, you stop guessing and start performing with a level of confidence that is incredibly attractive. You become the partner who actually knows how the body works, turning what could be a standard encounter into a deeply satisfying, high performance experience that she will remember long after it's over. This level of mastery is all about the flow of the experience, starting with the right chemistry to open up the senses and following through with the right physical techniques to capitalize on that heightened state. You become the partner who actually knows how the body works, turning what could be a standard encounter into a deeply satisfying high performance experience that she will remember long after it's over. By focusing on the labia and the surrounding areas with deliberate intentional, you are tapping into a woman's primary pleasure center. This approach removes the frustration of hit or miss intimacy and replaces it with a reliable, repeatable strategy for success. Being direct, being attentive, and being educated on these physiological cheat codes is the ultimate way to elevate the experience for both of you, ensuring that the time spent together is as impactful and engaging as possible. Breaking the taboos, it is time to have a direct, honest conversation about female anatomy and strip away the layers of misinformation that have caused unnecessary confusion for generations. One of the most misunderstood and unfairly stigmatized aspects of female pleasure is the phenomenon of fluid release, often referred to as squirting during a climax. For far too long, society has surrounded this natural occurrence with a sense of impurity or embarrassment, leading many women to feel self-conscious and many men to feel confused. We need to be crystal clear. If a woman experiences a release of fluid during an intense moment of intimacy, it is a perfectly natural, healthy, and high-functioning bodily response. It is not something to be cleaned up, in shame, or hidden away. It is a biological signal that her body has reached a state of peak stimulation and total relaxation. To understand why this happens, you have to look at the internal mechanics of the female pelvic region. During periods of extreme arousal, the Skene's glands, often called the female prostate, can produce and release fluid as a direct result of intense stimulation. This isn't a sign of a lack of control or a medical issue. It is a sign that the nervous system is firing on all cylinders. When a woman feels safe, comfortable, and highly stimulated, her body responds by releasing tension in the most physical way possible. Embracing this reality is a fundamental part of becoming a sophisticated and supportive partner. When you view these functions through the lens of biology rather than taboo, you remove barriers that often prevent women from reaching their full potential in the bedroom. Real intimacy requires a complete shift in perspective, moving past outdated myths and embracing exactly how the human body is designed to function. When you treat these natural responses as impurities, you create an environment of shame that kills desire and stalls connection. On the other hand, when you recognize that fluid release is simply a marker of a powerful, successful encounter, you foster a space where a woman feels free to let go and experience pleasure without reservation. This is the hallmark of a mature, educated partner. Someone who doesn't recoil at the body's natural processes, but celebrates them as evidence of a deep and satisfying physical bond. Ultimately, breaking these taboos is about education and respect. It is about understanding that the female body has complex, varied ways of expressing satisfaction, and none of them should be judged or feared. By normalizing these experiences and talking about them directly, we take the power away from the shame and put it back into the hands of the individuals experiencing the connection. Moving forward requires us to stop going around the subject and start speaking the truth. A woman's body is a masterpiece of biological engineering, and every natural function it performs during intimacy is a testament to the strength and depth of her pleasure. When you finally embrace how the body actually works, you open the door to a level of intimacy that is far more authentic, intense, and fulfilling than anything based on a myth. Beyond the bedroom, when we think about intimacy, we almost always envision the four walls of a bedroom, but the data tells a completely different story. In America, the reality of modern connection has shifted away from the traditional setting. Statistics show that the majority of sexual encounters actually occur inside vehicles rather than within the confines of a house. This isn't just a random occurrence. It is a powerful indicator of what actually drives human desire. It proves that spontaneity, the thrill of a new environment, and the heat of the moment are just as critical to a successful encounter as the act itself. The car represents a break from the routine, a private, mobile sanctuary where the rules of everyday life don't apply. This shift in location suggests that for many, the excitement of being somewhere unexpected is the ultimate catalyst for arousal. Understanding this change in behavior is essential because it highlights the importance of the where and the when. If you rely solely on a predictable routine in the same room every single time, the spark can easily fade into a chore. But when you embrace the idea that intimacy can happen anywhere, whether that's the back seat of a car or a quiet, secluded outdoor spot, you tap into a sense of adventure that keeps a relationship alive and electric. It's about the psychology of the forbidden or the impromptu. By moving beyond the bedroom, you are signaling to your partner that your desire for them isn't scheduled or restricted by a specific furniture set. It is a raw, ever-present force that can strike at any time. This environmental variety acts as a natural aphrodisiac, keeping both partners engaged and constantly curious about what might happen next. This focus on the environment is the final piece of the puzzle in mastering the biological and psychological reality of desire. It's about realizing that the human brain craves novelty. When you change the scenery, you change the chemistry of the encounter, making it feel fresh, daring, and significantly more memorable. Being an unforgettable partner means being willing to step out of the comfort zone and recognize that the world is your playground. If you can master the biology of her body, the chemistry of her triggers, and the psychology of her environment, you become part of the elite group of men who truly understand what it means to connect on a deep, visceral level. If you found these insights into the mechanics of attraction and the reality of modern intimacy valuable, make sure to like and share this video right now. Sharing this information helps break down the walls of misinformation and builds a community of men who are actually informed and capable. Don't stop here, though. The journey to understanding the human mind goes even deeper than the physical act. For more high-impact breakdowns on the hidden drivers of human behavior, watch our next video on the essential psychological facts that everybody needs to know. Taking the time to master these facts isn't just about improving your life. It's about gaining a competitive edge in everything you do.